and I'm 6'2". So I'm reaching behind me to the serial switch at the bottom of the first step to turn the light on upstairs. And I'm literally watching this lady, and I got a good 45 seconds to minute long, all-inspiring, holy hell kind of look at this thing. So I'm feeling for that switch, and I couldn't feel it. So I'm looking at it, and I'm kind of leaning back, and I get to the point where I'm about ready. I can feel I'm going to lose my balance if I feel for it anymore. So I look back really quick to pop the light on, and I was literally just a few inches from where the light switch was. Popped it on, look up, and that lady's gone.
Poof.
Literally gone. Now, there was a lady here that owned this place before. This is one of the older houses in town. If you go back and see the beginning starts of my town, you can see pictures of this house in the middle of not even roads. They're literally wagon tracks in front of the house, kind of deal. And this was butted up against one of the first grocery stores in the area. And I remember it as a kid before my grandparents owned this house, the grocery store, and it was turned into old storage facility and was decommissioned and tore down. Literally, I used the footprint of that grocery store as a parking lot. But that being said, I think there was an old lady that the fellow that owned the house before my grandparents owned this, and this was literally about the time my dad told me about that ghost story stuff, and I got mad at him. So anyway,
don't forget, when people back in that time frame when they passed on, they used to take the body and put them in the parlor. So they could lay there in the parlor for a day or two, and maybe she didn't go to the light and she's still thumping around.
Well, I think, if our memory serves correct, I think she did die in this house. The other thing is I know of a few other people that died in this house. So, but that being said, of course, here I am looking at the end of this 45-second minute ordeal, looking at this person. Of course, adrenaline's rushing, and I heard my grandparents, one of them, moving around in bed. And so I lickly run up the staircase for whatever reason. And I still didn't say a word. I'm looking to the right. The right of the stairs now is a washroom, a bathroom. But it was an old bedroom that was a storage unit. Then you turn around and you go down the hallway, and you got two bedrooms there. And I'm looking around to see if this old lady's still up there. And my bedroom was actually at the end of the stretch of that hallway. And take a left, and there's my bedroom. So I had to go the whole entire span of that, and here I am. And for whatever reason, I closed the door and locked it. and I lay down there, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I just seen. But to really get into the story is to tell you another little tidbit of it is. While I was doing these college clinicals and working so many hours between, literally I was doing 2 full-time jobs per week. Going to college and clinicals and then working full-time hours in a clothing facility or a store.
Wow.
And the only time I would get off anytime would be Sundays. I could sleep in a little bit later instead of having to wake up at the crack of dawn and either be at work or at college or at a clinical. So my Sundays were literally, I was sleeping Sundays. Big deal. Kind of deal. And of course, Sundays, everybody's either out of the house, going to church, or whatever. So I slept in one day, that Sunday, obviously. And I wake up hearing somebody singing a hymn. In Southern Baptist Church, Southern Methodist Church, they're all singing hymns. Some of them have music, some of them don't. This particular hymn was being sung. I couldn't understand what it was, but the cadence and the rhythm of the female's voice, I was like, oh, that's a hymn. And the first thing popped in my head, my papa was a fanatic about little radios, and he had them all over the place, and he loved listening to gospel stations. So I was like, well, Papa just left a little radio on somewhere, and I thought it was downstairs. So I just went back to sleep, listening to this voice singing a hymn. Didn't think anything of it. And I hear, I don't know how long it passed, what time frame passed after this. But I hear my grandparents coming home, and I kind of woke up and kind of dozed back off. And then I smell the iconic scent of KFC chicken. That's what woke me up. So I was like, well, I looked at the clock, and it was a little bit afternoon, almost 1. Jumped up, and I was like, well, lunch, breakfast time for me. So, of course, I go downstairs to do my duty, and one of the things that was beat into me early in life, really, was you don't touch the refrigerator unless you wash your hands, kind of deal. So I spent a lot of time just doing, everyday duties. And then I looked at Granny and I said, did you guys turn off that radio that was on down here? And Granny looked at me and said, no, there wasn't no radio on down here. When I come through the door, George was here first, and that was the name of my papa. But he come in literally as I was asking my grandmother questions. And he said, what are you talking about, Shawn? And I said, I heard one of your little radios playing Christian music. And some lady was singing a hymnal or something. He looked at me. He said, you're crazy, boy. There ain't nothing on down here. And I looked at him. I said, where's that little yellow radio of his? And he had one of these cube radios. It's probably about the size of putting 2 or 3 cigarette packs together. And then it had a little rat tail antenna on it. And I said, where's that thing at? And literally, it was sort of like a magician. He reaches over. He's at the doorway, standing between the kitchen doorway, the entrance to the doorway and the dining room. He reaches over to his right, and he magically pulls out that little yellow radio. And he said, "Well, you can see it's not on, son." And I was like, "What about the things downstairs?" He said, "No, there's nothing on." I was like, "Holy cow!" But I had heard that lady specifically on Sundays sing hymns. Now, I hadn't heard it since then, since I moved out after I graduated and moved out. I hadn't heard it, and I haven't heard it since I moved back in. But there you go. How's that for a story?
That was kind of eerie, but I got to warn you, the most scariest place of spirits. I had a friend who worked for Tacoma for the fire department as a paramedic. He said 40% of men, guess where they die at?
Where they die at? On the code.
Yeah, in the bathroom, okay? And so I always thought the most scariest place in the house would be, either the bathroom or the bed, where the majority of people die.
Yeah, well, I don't know where that little old lady, the lady I discussed that I thought was the ghost upstairs, and just give you a backstory, my family won't allow kids to go upstairs, even with them here. Little toddlers, they won't allow them to go up there, just because they know that lady's upstairs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that. I was like, well, okay. So I've done a lot of praying and stuff, and changed how I pray to get rid of all these things. And it's calmed down to me. I haven't seen a whole lot. Every once in a while I see some stuff. But the shadow person, I could sit here and tell you another hour worth of shadow people stories that just happened in this house. But, there's a lot of paranormal stuff going on here.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, my parents, we lived in Seattle. My grandmother, one of my grandmothers of the two, lived in Oakland, California, and she lived in an old apartment building that was built around the 1890s. And the bedroom, her guest bedroom was like huge. At least it was when you're like about 8 years old. And, she had like the old iron bed. And, during the summertime, I would get stuck up there for every summer for 2 weeks. And the very first time I had to stay there, Shawn, that night, there I was in this kind of creepy old, and I'd say it was old then, apartment building. It was kind of run down. And here I am in this huge, bedroom with a huge walk-in closet, which didn't close. And there I was in bed, and then I saw this shadow come out of the closet and walk around the whole room and then go back in the closet. And it scared me so bad, I, pulled the blanket over my head and all that stuff. The next morning, I tell my grandmother, Sally, I said, hey, there's something here. I saw this person, like a shadow. It kind of blended into the walls and stuff like that. And she goes, yeah, they've been here for the last 40-some years.
Oh, yeah, this is easily, the stuff I've been telling you about. This spans, my family's owned this place almost 30 years, give or take a few years. But, yeah, this spans my knowledge of the place. And literally what happened with how my grandparents got ownership of this place, they owned the property right up against the fence line, the property line of the current house I'm in. So literally, as the gentleman that owned this place before, as his family was moving out or passing or whatever, there was one little old fellow that was in this big old house. That's kind of ironic since I'm a little old fellow in this big old house now. They made a deal and they sort of swapped properties, and whatever financial exchanges happened, wound up owning this house. But I do remember seeing stuff in the upstairs windows as a kid. As a kid, seeing stuff upstairs and with full knowledge of there was only one man in there, and there was something in that window, and it wasn't a man.
Eerie. So, hey, now our time is almost gone. Can you tell people how they can find you on the web? I mean,
sure.
Besides your podcast, you do your Facebook, or do you have a website and all that stuff?
Yeah,
share it.
I'm working with Dark Waters to get like a signature page on IamDarkWaters.com. That's where you can find all my podcasts for Chasing the Truth with Shawn Graham. The other thing is I'm on Twitter. It is @1, the number 1, SHAWNSTER. And I have a fan page that is Chasing the Truth Podcast. That's on Facebook. And I'm on Gab at Shawnster, SHAWNSTER. And I just opened up an IG account, and I can't remember what the thing is, but it's connected to my Facebook account. But you can go to either of those places. I'm more attuned to doing Twitter. So if you want to see some fantastic stories that I personally have found, it's kind of slowed down to when I post them and stuff. But I found some great paranormal stories that literally I've kept in my back pocket. All these things that I have told you tonight are my personal stories or close friend stories that have given me permission. So I've got a ton more stories to share. And the other thing is Dark Waters himself is going to start his own show on September 22nd. You can find that at IamDarkWaters.com. And he's going to go live. He's got a whole 8-hour special that he's getting into. He's going to be doing a whole hour, taking live calls, different guests and whatnot. I think I'm scheduled to be on, but I have not I've already agreed to him. I didn't care what time it was. But I'll be on there for about an hour, that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing is, one thing is, I love telling stories. So, hit me up on one of those places, Facebook or Twitter or wherever you can find me. Don't hesitate to contact me. I'm pretty open about who I am, what I do and stuff. So please come find me.
Well, Shawn, it's been really nice having you on Night Dreams. And, Dark Waters can tell some really, scary stories. I mean, he told some about Bigfoot and all kinds of stuff. And, he can really, give out some really scary stories. And you do just as good as Dark Waters does.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. I really do. Thanks, Gary, for having me on your show on Night Dreams Talk Radio.